Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, seeing us again with Fitria Noor and Kania Prisiwi Putri. Today we will explain about clause and the type of clause to fulfill the English syntax assignment 7. Okay, let's start it begin. The first is definition of clause. Clause is a group of related words containing a subject that tells readers what the sentence is about and a verb that tells readers what the subject is doing. According to Merriam-Webster, a clause is a group of words containing a subject and predicate and functioning as a member of a complex or compound sentence. The next is the example of clause. According to how many words is it? The first is I graduated last year. This is one clause sentence. The next is when I come here, I saw him. This is two clause sentence. And the example of three clause sentence is when I come here, I saw him and he greeted me. The next is the types of clause. The types of clause was divided into two parts. There are independent clause and dependent clause. Dependent clause was subdivided into three sections. Okay, I will explain about independent clause. An independent clause functions on its own to make a meaningful sentence and looks much like a regular sentence. In a sentence, two independent clauses can be connected by the coordinators there and, but, so, are, nor, for, yet. The next is the example of independent clause. The first, the example of independent clause according one independent clause is he is a wise man. I like him. Can you do it? Do it please. I read the whole story. The next is the example of independent clause according to independent clause. I wanna buy a phone, but I don't have enough money. He went to London and visited the Lords.
The second is dependent clause. A dependent clause or subordinate clause is a clause that cannot stand alone as a complete sentence because it doesn't express a complete whole. Like a clause, a dependent clause has a subject and verb. Here are some example of dependent clause. Notice how the shade clauses could not stand alone as sentences. This is how a dependent clause differs from an independent clause. And then the types of dependent clause. There are three types of dependent clause. First is noun clause. This type of dependent clause is used in two main ways. The first way is using question word conjunction, where, what, when, or if, and whether to create implicit question. The noun clause usually follows the main independent clause. The other way that noun clause are used in that clause, usually to express some kind of mental state, necessity, possibility, or truth, that is often left out. The second is adverbial clause. This type of dependent clause act as adverb and tell us something about the information that is in the main independent clause. These are some of the common purpose of adverbial clause and common subordinating conjunction. With adverbial clause, the dependent clause can go before or after the independent clause. Here are some examples of adverbial clause. The third type of dependent clause is the adjective or relative clause. It is acting as an adjective because it modifies a noun or pronoun. The clause will start with a relative pronoun, for example, which, who, that, whom, where, or whose. It usually comes directly after the noun it's modifying, so unlike adverbial clause, the position where it appears in the independent clause will vary. In this example of adjective clauses, the noun being modified is underlined.
Okay, we think enough for this material. We hope you guys can capture this material clearly. Okay, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.